My name is Nathan Reeds, and I'm writing this because what is coming, what me and my now deceased friends have done to this world, is something that everyone must be prepared to face the consequences for. It was 3 months ago when this all started, and I had received a call from my friend Jared. He was an archaeologist from Yale who found this island while taking a flight from New York to England. When he gave me the coordinates, I cross-referenced the map to see that there was no island there. I told him he must have been mistaken, but he insisted he has found an uncharted island and had the fundings together for an expedition. Work has been slow for experts on ancient language, and he wanted me to tag along in case we found any sign of ancient civilization. I didn't think this was going to be anything more than chasing dreams, but he was paying, and he was my friend. Now I wish I had just said no and told him it was a waste of time. After a month, we set out for the island. There was me, Jared, and Melody, a woman who owned a private contracting company and brought along 3 men to help with any muscle work. Dr. Atkins, pleasure to meet you. Melody reached out her hand to shake Jared's. Thank you for getting us some muscle and bodyguards. The terrain is mostly jungle, so who knows what we will find out there. Jared and Melody didn't really know each other before this, but you would think they were best friends. I already got paid in advance, so I hope you find what you're looking for, Melody said to Jared. I wouldn't bet my bottom dollar if I didn't think it would pay out, he said, sure of himself. We set sail off the coast of Florida, making for the coordinates set on the map. The ride would take us maybe 12 hours, and luckily we had enough resources with us. Jared must have put his life savings into this. As I slept at sea under the stars, I had the strangest dream. I was in the jungle we were set to explore, and in the distance, there was a low humming. I set out to find the source of the humming, and no matter how far I traveled, it didn't get any louder. Finally, after wandering and fumbling, I come across a tree, but this wasn't like any tree I'd ever seen before. It had ebony black bark, no leaves, and a menacing aura, but the thing that stood out most was the fact that the tree was covered in eyes. I stood for an immeasurable amount of time, just staring at the tree, trying to find out what it was and what it wanted. That's when it began to speak. It was like a murmur or whisper echoing in my head. Yet the tree's voice was loud enough to hear clear words.
And so, coming to the forever forbidden island, the 3 stars to light our path and pave the way through the infinite void. The door has opened, and the rightful heirs return.
I didn't understand a thing this monster was trying to say, and that's when everything went dark and my eyes flew open to the sunlight. Most of the time, I forget about a dream as soon as I wake up, but I remember every detail of it to this day. Land ahoy! I hear one of the mercenaries yell. I was in disbelief. I really thought there was no island here, and it was always blank on the map. Was it really happening? Did we really find an uncharted island? As soon as we got to shore, we unpacked our equipment and wasted no time scouting into the jungle. Jared locked something down in his journal, and then grabbed his walking stick, wasting no time going into the thicket. If I were to give my first impression of the island, it looked majestic, but felt wrong to be here. I felt as though we had disturbed something. And I don't think I was the only one feeling this. 2 of the hired help looked around like they were expecting something to pounce. You could say they were just doing their jobs, but I think there is more to it than that. Wait, Jared said as everyone came to a stop. He then bent down to pick up something off the ground. It was a wood-carved idol. It was beautifully detailed, a complete work of art. The figurine was a man slouching over. He was depicted to be tall, slender, and had wings coming out his back. What civilization made that? I asked Jared, to which he then looked shocked. Well, it looks like a demon could have made it. If we found some text or scripture, it might give us an idea as to who made this and when. We took our finding and marched back to the beach where we would set up camp. Jared was happier than a kid in a candy store. He actually found evidence of a lost civilization on an uncharted island. The sun went down, and we all ate. Jared was studying the artifact in his tent, and the others returned to their quarters for sleep. I decided to stay outside and enjoy the celestial night sky. It was unusually clear. It looked like a desktop wallpaper or a pretty painting. Hues of green and blue across the night sky with an impossible number of stars and some visible planets. I wanted to go in and tell Jared. But that's when I felt an eerie presence from the edge of the thicket, and I turned my head to a disturbing sight. Between the trees, I thought I saw the silhouettes of humans. It stopped me for a moment, but there was definitely something not natural about the shadows between the darkness. That's when I ran in for Jared. Hey, you gotta see this. Jared put down the artifact and looked at me. Why are you so worried? He asked while getting out of his chair. We walked outside and I turned him to look at the jungle. But by then, the figures were gone. I thought I was going mad, but then I heard him make a comment before I could plead my case. Well, would you look at that sky? He said, looking up at the cosmic sighting. If I was an astronomer, this would warrant much study. I turned to look back at the woods. Maybe it was my imagination. Look, it's been a long day. Why don't you go rest? Yeah, I do feel a bit tired. Hey, have you made any progress on that artifact? He shook his head. It is definitely for some deity or idol, but I cannot tell you which one or who made it. I went to bed. Maybe I did just imagine things. Maybe the heat got to me. I went into my tent and lay down in bed. Then immediately woke up without any memory of falling asleep. They were making breakfast outside, and I sat down for some bacon and eggs while they hashed out the plan for the day. Alright, so today we're going to explore the west side of the island, Jared said, excited to make more discoveries. I look back and think about how excited we were, not even realizing what we were delivering onto the world. We were on our way into the jungle when we realized something. One of the three mercenaries was absent. Keith? I heard Melody shout. Probably just went out to take a leak in the jungle. I heard one of the other mercenaries say. We weren't going to wait around for him while we had fresh daylight. So we packed up camp and went into the jungle. We walked for hours through the heat, sightseeing different kinds of animals, some familiar and some not. We were thinking about what would happen after this, the interviews, making our names into the papers and even awards. That's when one of the mercenaries said something. Hope Keith didn't get himself killed out there. I mean, where the hell are we going at this point? He sounded like he was getting frustrated, not acting professional at all. He'll be fine. He's probably back at the beach. I heard the man murmur something to himself. And that's when I noticed how stressful the tension got. Nobody said anything, but you could cut the tension with a knife. I couldn't tell if it was fear or fatigue. It was getting to be sundown and we were going to make our way back to camp when we saw something past the trees. It wasn't a human figure or anything like that. No, it was a stone monolith, not dissimilar to Stonehenge. In fact, it was two large monoliths and a third stacked horizontally on top of it. The monument was covered in runes and symbols I didn't recognize. That's when it dawned on me. I was looking at a portal frame. Jared's jaw dropped to the floor, and I got to work trying to decipher the text on the rocks. It was dark, but the runes and symbols on the stone seemed to be moving and shifting, making it hard for me to get a clear picture of what language it was. We didn't even notice it turned to night, and when we looked around, we saw men in robes holding torches and knives encircling us. Keith was the one with the gun, and he was gone. I'm sure now that it was Dim who killed him. One of the cultists broke from the crowd. He was holding a black dagger and an idol matching the one Jared was studying. He spoke in a language I didn't fully understand, but caught a few words in Latin, then Arabic, and both of the words mean sacrifice. "Who are you people?" asked Jared. The cultists said nothing and went to restrain us. We tried to fight with whatever we had, the machete, our fist, or anything. But in the end, numbers overwhelmed and they pinned us. Two cultists brought Jared up to the portal and the leader readied his knife. I couldn't bear to watch and close my eyes, hearing my friend scream, then choke on blood, and finally hit the ground. The next one they brought up was Melody, and just as they brought her up to the altar, she bit one of the cultist's arms, causing him to lose his grip on her. She wasted no time, pulling out a knife she hid in her boot and killed the leader of their group under the arch. She was then killed by one of the cultists immediately after. That's when it activated. With 3 sacrifices under the portal, it began to form a dark haze, which then turned into a crimson red. That's when tentacles began to spring from the doorway and snatch random cultists. The ones that were holding me let go and walked towards it while chanting something. I did the opposite and ran as fast as I could. The next few moments were a blur, but somehow I managed to get through the jungle and back to the beach. I immediately fueled up one of the boats while a bright red light emerged from the heart of the jungle and a distorted strand of words filled my head. It was all gibberish, but I didn't care. I wasn't listening anyway. I finally got the boat fuel up and got the hell out of there. I floored it until I was found by coast guards in the middle of the ocean with little supplies and no fuel after about 6 hours of fleeing that damn place. After that, I was in the hospital for psychiatric trauma and heat stroke. I haven't seen anything on the news about the expedition, but they won't be able to hide it for long. I'm writing this because the world needs to know what we unleashed. I don't know why it had to be us. I don't know why the cultists didn't just sacrifice each other, if that's what they needed for their sick ritual. But we were special for some reason. Us and that damned dark apostle. All I know is that the door is opened. Something eldritch and horrifying will come out through that gate. The links between worlds has been broken. And soon, people will start to suffer from madness, paranoia, and hysteria. Unusual weather patterns are already being reported. And I am beginning to notice a change in people. Not a good one, mind you. Just prepare yourselves. Because I believe the worst has yet to come.